I never thought a single afternoon could break me the way this one did. The backyard was decorated with pastel pink and blue balloons, a giant table of cupcakes, family and friends all buzzing around, excited to find out if we were having a boy or a girl. It was supposed to be a celebration, a moment I'd remember with a smile for the rest of my life. But instead, that day became the reason I would never look at my husband the same way again. Marco, my husband, had been acting strange all week. Distant, distracted, and barely willing to help set up for the party. At first, I thought it was just nerves. After all, becoming a parent is a huge change. But as I looked at him from across the yard, something in his eyes was so cold it nearly froze me to the bone. I tried to stay strong, holding my 7 months pregnant belly, reminding myself this was for the baby. I had invited everyone I loved to celebrate, and no matter what, I would not let Marco's sour mood ruin it. But then he walked over to me, leaning in so close I could feel his breath on my cheek, and whispered words that cut me open like a knife. I never wanted this baby. My hands began to shake. It felt like my heart had stopped beating, like the world had gone silent around me. I could hear children laughing, people clapping, music playing, but it all felt so far away. His voice, cold and full of hate, was the only sound echoing inside my head. How could he say that? After everything we'd been through, after months of trying, after the night we cried together with happiness when the test turned positive. Had he been lying this entire time? I tried to steady my breathing as the event coordinator handed me the microphone. The moment had come to announce the gender. Everyone was watching. Their phones were out, ready to record the big reveal. I could see the excitement on my parents' faces, my friends' wide smiles. And in that exact instant, something shifted inside me. I would not let him break me. I held the mic tighter, forcing a smile that felt like glass shattering on my face. "Thank you all for being here," I began, my voice steady even though my knees wanted to collapse. "It means everything to have your love and support. If you're hearing my story right now, and you've ever felt alone like this, abandoned, even in the happiest moment of your life, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There are so many people who need to hear stories like ours, to know they are not alone." I kept going. "Today is a day for truth," I told them, glancing at Marco, who had the audacity to smirk. "A day to celebrate new life, and maybe, to let go of the lies." Nobody noticed the tiny envelope tucked inside my purse. I had been holding onto it for weeks. A DNA test. I didn't know why I'd done it. Maybe deep down I had felt Marco pulling away, maybe my mother's warnings had made me doubt, but now, I was grateful. Grateful, because the moment he whispered those cruel words, I knew I could no longer protect him. As everyone counted down to the gender reveal, I felt my baby girl move inside me, like a reminder of why I had to stand strong. I was about to do something that would shock every single person there, and change the rest of my life. The confetti cannons fired, pink confetti raining down as everyone cheered. But I barely heard them. I reached for my purse, ready to pull out the truth, ready to expose the one secret that would destroy Marco's twisted little fairy tale forever. Because if he didn't want this baby, then he didn't deserve to be part of her life. And I was about to make sure the whole world knew it. I could still feel the confetti landing on my shoulders, tiny pink paper dreams falling around me while my world crumbled. People were cheering, hugging, filming for their social media. But I was frozen, clutching my purse with one hand, the other trembling over my belly as my baby girl kicked again, like she was urging me to stand up for both of us. Marco came closer, smiling for the cameras, acting like he hadn't just tried to destroy me seconds before. His arm snaked around my shoulders, but it felt like ice. I didn't even react, my mind spinning with the words "I never wanted this baby." I could barely breathe. All I could think of was the envelope buried deep in my purse, the envelope I had ordered in secret, afraid of what I might find. But now, I was grateful for that fear. Because it was going to save me. When the cheering died down, I took a shaky step forward and lifted the microphone again. "Thank you for celebrating our little girl," I began, and the guests smiled warmly, clueless about the truth about to crash into their perfect pink day. I looked at Marco, and he squeezed my shoulder as if to shut me up, to control me one last time. But he couldn't. I wouldn't let him. My voice steadied. "There's something else I want to share," I announced, letting my gaze sweep across the crowd. A few guests frowned, sensing the tension. The cameras were still rolling, catching every twitch of my face, every tremor in my voice. I could almost hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Marco whispered, "What are you doing?" I ignored him. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope. "This," I said, holding it up high, "is a DNA test result I ordered weeks ago." A collective gasp spread through the backyard. I could see hands going to mouths, hear soft "oh my god"s rippling through the guests. Marco's fake smile vanished instantly, replaced by a wide-eyed, horrified stare. "You're humiliating me," he hissed, trying to snatch the envelope. But I stepped back. "You humiliated me first," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The atmosphere changed in a heartbeat. People lowered their phones, eyes darting back and forth between us. The pink confetti lay forgotten on the grass, the cake untouched, balloons drifting sadly in the summer breeze. I broke the seal on the envelope with shaking fingers. Part of me wanted to throw up. Part of me wanted to run. But most of me felt something close to relief, because no matter what was inside, I was done letting Marco control my life. "Read it to yourself," Marco pleaded under his breath, panic rising in his voice. I didn't even look at him. I read it aloud. "Probability of paternity, 0%. It felt like the world stopped. A hush fell over the entire yard. Someone dropped their phone. The kids stopped running around. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. My little girl was not Marco's daughter. He staggered backward, face drained of color, searching for words that wouldn't come. I felt my knees wobble, but I held on, stronger than I ever thought possible. My parents stared at me in shock. My sister's mouth hung open. A friend let out a tiny squeal. Nobody moved. Nobody even breathed. Marco tried to grab the mic from my hand, shouting something I couldn't even process. Rage, maybe. Shame. Fear. It didn't matter. I stepped away, cradling my belly with my free hand. "This baby is mine," I declared, feeling a tear slip down my cheek. "And I will raise her with love, whether he's in her life or not." Marco's jaw dropped, but he was powerless. I could almost see the calculations flashing through his mind, the money, the reputation, the loss of control. But I didn't care anymore. The guests slowly began to applaud. A couple of women came forward, hugging me. One whispered, "You are so brave." Another pressed a tissue into my hand. My heart felt raw, but also lighter than it had in months. This was my turning point. This was the moment I chose freedom over fear. If you've ever had to stand alone and protect your child, you know what that costs. You know the power it takes. And you also know why I could never turn back. I wiped my tears and lifted my head high, looking straight at Marco. His hands trembled, his eyes wild. But I was done being afraid of him. The truth was out, and there was no going back. I woke up the next morning with my heart pounding, my head still spinning from the shockwaves of what I had done. The gender reveal had turned into a battlefield. There were still pink confetti pieces clinging to my hair, reminding me of a moment that should have been joyful, but had been ripped apart by lies. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Marco hadn't come home after the party. Part of me wondered if he would ever come back, but another part, a stronger, more grounded part, hoped he wouldn't. I ran my hand over my belly. She kicked, gentle but strong, as if telling me, "We're okay, Mama." It made me smile through the tears I'd been holding in. This little girl growing inside me was the reason I had stood on that stage and told the truth, no matter how terrifying. My phone was buzzing nonstop. Messages from family, friends, even people I barely knew, all wanting to talk about what had happened. Some offered support, some asked nosy questions, and some were just trying to get gossip. I didn't answer. I didn't owe explanations. I pulled myself out of bed and went to the kitchen, where the leftover cupcakes from the party sat untouched. My appetite was gone, but I grabbed a glass of water and tried to calm my nerves. My mind replayed the moment over and over, Marco's face when I read out the paternity results, the way the entire backyard had fallen silent, the faces of the guests. It was burned into my memory forever. I couldn't shake the image of Marco's hands reaching for the mic, his voice breaking, how desperate he looked. It was the first time I had ever seen him afraid of me, afraid of my truth. And that, in some twisted way, gave me a sense of peace. A knock on the door startled me. I froze. Another knock, firmer this time. I opened the door to find my sister, Mia, standing there with a determined look on her face. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside and let her in. She sat me down on the couch, scanning my face like she was reading a crime scene. "Are you okay?" I sighed, the exhaustion seeping into my bones. "I don't know," I admitted. "I feel free. But also terrified." Mia nodded slowly. "You did the right thing," she said, squeezing my hand. "No one should treat you like that. No one should treat their own child like that." Her words filled something hollow inside me. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. I leaned back, taking in a deep breath. He meant what he said, Mia. He really never wanted this baby. I don't know how to live with that. "You don't have to," she said firmly. "You don't need him. You have us. You have me." Tears spilled down my cheeks, and Mia hugged me tight, letting me cry on her shoulder until the shaking in my chest eased. When she pulled back, she looked me straight in the eyes. "You know he'll try to come back, right? He'll try to spin this around on you." I nodded, already imagining the excuses, the manipulations, the way he'd twist the truth. Marco was a master of playing the victim. But this time I wasn't going to let him. "I won't let him near her," I said, voice steady. "Not ever." Mia smiled, proud. "Good. Because you are stronger than him. Stronger than all of this." I felt my baby move again, as if agreeing with her aunt, and for the first time in weeks, I let a real smile cross my face. The doorbell rang again. My heart skipped a beat. Mia glanced at me, tense. "Should I get it?" she asked. I shook my head, standing up. "No. I'll do it." I opened the door, and there he was. Marco. Disheveled, desperate, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept all night. "Please," he blurted, voice cracking. "Can we talk?" I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. "There's nothing left to say." He looked past me, trying to see inside. "Is she okay? The baby?" "We're fine," I answered, ice in my tone. "And we don't need you." He reached out like he might try to touch my belly, but I stepped back, protective. "Don't," I warned. His face crumpled. "I made a mistake," he said, tears welling up. "I didn't mean it." "You know I didn't." My jaw clenched. "You meant every word. And you showed me exactly who you are." He fell silent, shoulders slumping in defeat. "I want to be her father," he whispered. I shook my head. "You had your chance." Mia stepped forward, arms crossed, standing right beside me. The message was clear, we were united. We weren't afraid of him anymore. Marco backed away, face twisted in pain, then turned and left without another word. I closed the door, resting my forehead against it, breathing hard. Mia put a comforting hand on my back. "You did it," she said softly. "You finally broke free." I nodded, letting that truth sink in. We finally broke free. The next few days felt like learning to breathe again. I walked through the house with a different energy, a lighter step, no longer tiptoeing around Marco's moods or his silent punishments. I could feel the baby responding, too. She moved more, as if feeding off my peace. I started making small changes. I took down the framed pictures of our wedding that had once made me smile, but now felt like poison on the walls. I boxed up the souvenirs of our perfect love and put them away. I replaced them with photos of my family, my sister, even silly baby onesies I'd bought. Reminders of the life I was building now, just the two of us. Mia visited almost every day, helping me reorganize things and making me laugh when I thought I had no laughter left in me. I watched her fold tiny clothes, telling me how I'd soon be up all night feeding, and how she'd be there for me no matter what. It was a lifeline I didn't even know I needed. Of course, Marco tried to call. Again and again. Each message was more desperate than the last: apologies, excuses, promises that he'd change, that he didn't mean it, that he was just scared. I left them all unread. He'd shown me who he really was, and I was done letting him rewrite the story. But he didn't give up. On a rainy Thursday, he showed up at the door unannounced, soaking wet, with a bouquet of cheap flowers. I looked at them, at the water dripping from his hair, and felt nothing. "Please," he begged, "at least let me see you." I shook my head. "You need to leave. Can't we talk?" I stood firm, my belly rounding against my sweatshirt, a physical reminder of what he'd rejected. "There's nothing to talk about." He stepped closer. I was angry. I was overwhelmed. "You have to understand." I cut him off. "I do understand," I said, steady as stone. "That's exactly why you're not welcome here anymore." His shoulders fell, the flowers slipping from his hand to the wet ground. His lips trembled, but no words came out. I stepped back inside and closed the door, locking it behind me. For a moment I leaned against the door, breathing hard, a swirl of fear and triumph tangling inside me. I was scared, of course I was, but I was also proud. Proud that I had finally protected myself and my daughter. That night, as I lay down, I felt my little girl move again, stronger than ever. It was like she was telling me, "I'm here, Mama. I'm yours." The next morning, I decided to meet with a lawyer. If Marco decided to fight for rights, I needed to be prepared. I wasn't going to let him barge in and claim my daughter after abandoning us. I wanted to draw every line, every boundary, as clear and solid as stone. The lawyer listened carefully as I told her everything: the reveal, the hateful words, the DNA test, the moment he tried to come back. She took notes with calm confidence and assured me that he had no claim over a child that wasn't his. Still, I wanted an official restraining order. I wanted it in writing that he could not come near me, not now, not ever. The paperwork was heavy in my hands, but also freeing. I was taking back control, page by page. When I got home, Mia was there waiting, arms full of new baby gifts. She hugged me, then noticed the folder under my arm. "You did it?" she asked. I nodded. "Good," she said. "No more chances. He doesn't deserve them." I let out a long breath and set the folder on the table. The weight felt so different now, like a shield instead of a burden. We spent the afternoon putting together the crib, arranging the tiny baby socks and onesies, and talking about names. It felt like reclaiming something stolen, piecing my dreams back together one little step at a time. In the evening, I looked out the window and saw the sun breaking through the gray, painting gold over the rooftops. For the first time in what felt like forever, I believed that life might actually turn beautiful again. And deep in my heart, I promised my daughter that I would never let anyone tear us down again. The day I finally went into labor was nothing like I had pictured during all those months of fear and heartbreak. There was no gentle, loving partner by my side, no reassuring hand squeezing mine. But there was Mia, steady as a rock, holding my hand through every contraction, wiping my tears, telling me I was strong, that I could do this. And I did. When they placed my baby girl on my chest, something inside me healed. Her tiny fingers curled around mine, and I knew, without question, that I would protect her with every ounce of strength I had left. She was everything. The moment I heard her cry, the first breath of life leaving her perfect little lungs, I felt the pain and the chaos of the last months finally release their grip on me. She was mine. Ours. A brand new story waiting to be written. I named her Sophia, a name I had always loved. Wisdom. Strength. Hope. It felt right, she had given me all of those things, without even realizing it. I stayed in the hospital for a couple of days, recovering, letting my body and mind begin to settle. Mia visited every day, showering me with love and coffee and the silly stories only sisters can tell. Even my parents came, teary-eyed and amazed by their granddaughter, promising they would help in any way they could. Marco tried to come. The nurses turned him away, following the court order I had filed. It was a relief to know that line had been drawn, solid and unbreakable. He would never get the chance to poison my daughter's life the way he had tried to poison mine. On the last morning before discharge, I sat by the window with Sophia sleeping on my chest, the hospital calm in the early light. The world felt fresh and different, as if we'd stepped into a new dimension where hope was finally allowed to breathe. I closed my eyes, pressing a soft kiss on her head. "You are safe," I whispered, "and you will always be safe." I could already see the path stretching out ahead of us. There would be challenges, of course, late nights and tears, scraped knees, and broken hearts someday. But there would also be laughter, and first words, and birthdays, and new family memories we would build from scratch. No one would ever define us again. As I packed up to leave the hospital, Mia took a picture of me with Sophia in my arms. I looked at the photo later, and I barely recognized myself, not because I looked tired, but because I looked free. When we got home, I stepped through the front door and felt a wave of peace wash over me. Sophia slept soundly in her carrier, unaware of how powerful her birth had been, how it had freed me as much as it had given me a reason to keep fighting. I put her down in her new crib, the tiny room decorated with soft colors and peaceful lights. It was our sanctuary, a place where no one could ever tell us we weren't enough. As I stood there, breathing in the moment, I felt something shift in me once again, a quiet, unbreakable determination. This was our second chance. Our true beginning. If you followed me through every chapter of this story, I want you to know, your support means everything. If my journey resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe. You are part of this new start with me, and your encouragement gives me the courage to keep telling stories that matter. From now on, our story is ours alone, and we will write every line with love.